We have to be really careful about the peace talks in Istanbul between the Russian and the Ukrainian delegations that ought to have marked a turning point in a war that's already claimed over 1 million casualties on both sides. Indeed, what we're witnessing has been something closer to a diplomatic pantomime, with King Rat over there and the Dame over there, no fairy in sight. Well, Putin sent his B-list surrogates. He didn't come himself. Zelensky, with characteristic resolve, came to Turkey. He sent his defence minister, but the imbalance was glaring and the outcome predictably hollow. 2 hours, no peace process. This was performance, and the location, Dolmabahce Palace, couldn't have been more ironic. Once the seat of sultans, now a gallery of ghosts where Russian imperial ambition continues to haunt the place. And Vladimir Medinsky, who led the Russian team, is a man more associated with myth-making than diplomacy. A former culture minister, Kremlin propagandist, he recycled the rhetoric of 2022, maximalist demands, implied threats, and selective historical references. His presence signalled regression, not progress. And Zelensky called it correctly. The Russian delegation was decorative. The real power, the only power in Russia, stayed behind the Kremlin walls. A single glimmer of substance, however, has emerged. The agreement to exchange 1,000 prisoners on each side. Important, yes. 1,000 families will breathe again. But let's not mistake this for diplomatic progress. It was transactional, not transformational. It required no compromise from Moscow, no structural change in its objectives, and above all, no recognition of Ukraine's sovereignty. Make no mistake, this meeting was designed to fail. Moscow's real goal was twofold: to appear cooperative for Western audiences while buying time for troop mobilization and further strikes. In the days surrounding the talks, Russia intensified its drone assaults, including a lethal attack on an evacuation bus in Sumy Oblast this morning that killed 9 civilians, mostly elderly women. The military objective in that? None. Meanwhile, Kremlin-linked media began laying the groundwork for a propaganda assault, claiming ludicrously that Ukraine cannot act independently of its Western handlers. Such narratives don't just pollute the diplomatic climate, they obscure Russia's ongoing brutality. And this campaign propaganda effort is something that I think Caleb Robertson is going to talk about in the next day or so, when he examines the number of sleeper Moscow supporters who've been brought in from Europe to Moscow to do puff pieces in front of the camera to say how wonderful Moscow is. And to ensure the world doesn't look too closely, Russia launched another front in its war, a war against journalists. A report by Reporters Without Borders reveals a sustained missile campaign against hotels known to house media workers. This has been going on for a few years now. Since the war began, 25 such sites in Odessa or just outside Odessa and other places have been struck, not because of military value, but because of their visibility and because of the people who are known to be staying there. The goal is to blind us. And then there's Donald Trump. His claim that nothing will happen until Putin and I meet betrays a narcissistic misunderstanding of statecraft. It flatters the Kremlin's delusion that Ukraine is merely a pawn on a board between great powers. By hinting that the US might tolerate Russia's land grabs in exchange for peace, Trump hands Putin exactly what he wants: validation. This isn't diplomacy, it's capitulation by handshake. And even as European leaders scramble to coordinate sanctions, some member states, France, Germany, Hungary, continue to buy Russian gas. The EU may despise Putin, but they're still quite literally fueling his war. Meanwhile, far from palatial Istanbul, in the ruins of Bokorundichna, volunteers like Alexei Yukov continue to retrieve the unburied dead, a skull in a Hessian sack, several corpses in a Donbass field. These are not metaphors, they are the material reality of Putin's war. Yukov, who lost an eye and nearly his legs retrieving the dead, has a simple plea: a ceasefire, if only to recover the bodies. To refuse a ceasefire is to leave your soldiers dead in the fields, he said. The Kremlin's response: silence, no 30-day truce, no safe corridors, only blood-soaked ground. And what can we say about the Istanbul talks? They weren't a breakthrough, not even a misstep. They were a calculated distraction, a theatre of shadows designed to stall Western resolve and to fracture international consensus. And yet, There is a lesson. Putin's absence is itself a presence. His refusal to engage shows the pressure is working. He's buying time, which means he must shorten the clock. Ukraine's message is clear. They are ready for peace, but not at the cost of their dignity or their land. It's the West's responsibility now to stop playing along with this charade and apply the full weight of sanctions, isolation, and economic warfare. I don't approve of sanctions. I've never approved of sanctions. But if they're there, we might as well do them properly. Because until Russia's real leadership sits down with the real intent, there will be no peace. Just more skulls in bags, more names etched onto stone, more empty palaces echoing with diplomatic delusion. Peace is not merely the absence of war, it's the presence of justice. And today in Istanbul, today as Dolmabahce Palace empties, justice was conspicuously absent.